Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome, dear students. Myself, Dr. Ajay Simalti from Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, HNB Garhwal University, a central university from Srinagar, Garhwal, Uttarakhand. Welcome you in this lecture. In our lecture series on the pharmaceutical production technologies, today we are going to discuss the next part of the drying technology. And today, after covering the theory of drying, the various aspects of drying, humidity, moisture content, theory of drying, various phases of drying. Now we are discussing one of the most important and most widely used dryer, that is spray dryer. So let's enjoy this lecture on spray dryer technology and the spray dryer. After going through this module, you will be able to understand the concept of spray drying. You will be able to learn the construction and mechanism of the spray dryer, identifying the factors, and also you will be able to know about the application of spray drying. How we are going to cover this lecture? Spray dryer, what does it mean? Construction of spray dryer, the mechanism, factors involved and factors affecting the spray drying, and thereafter we'll be covering briefly the application of spray dryer. So in the beginning, I would like to let you know that it is one of the oldest form of drying equipment and drying technology. It is very commonly used dryer. As we have discussed in the classification of dryer, with respect to the heat transfer mechanism, it is a convection type dryer. And with respect to the solid handling, here material is agitated. And with respect to dosage form, which can be handled in this dryer, it is used for drying of solutions like liquid or semi-liquid products. One of the few technologies it is available for converting liquid, slurry, or low viscosity paste to dry free flowing powder. So let's move to what is the theory of spray drying. This is a simple diagram you are seeing here. What does the dryer means? The hot dryer is a hot air is introduced. It is a dryer which provides a large surface area for heat and mass transfer by atomizing the liquid to small droplets. So what is the basic principle? We are atomizing the liquid into the small droplet form, providing the high surface area. So that's why the drying is very effective here. Substances to be dried are sprayed into the stream of hot air like this, okay, and so that each droplet dries to a solid particle. So whatever the feed is there, it is moving and it is in counter current way. It is getting the maximum contact with the hot air, and after drying, it can be collected through the outlet. The drying chamber, this drying chamber, what you can see here, this drying chamber resembles the cyclone, ensuring good circulation of air to facilitate heat and mass transfer, and that dried particles are separated by the centrifugal action. This is just the simplest way I can let you know about very briefly in spray drying. Now let us move to advantages of spray drying. It is a continuous process. If heat supply is uninterrupted, it can work for months. Physical properties of products like size, shape, moisture content, flow properties, they can be controlled through equipment choice and process variables. Rapid drying. The rapid drying, small droplet size with high surface area. Due to this, the actual drying time of a droplet is only a fraction of a second, and the overall time in the dryer is only a few seconds. So that's why it is suitable for many substances which doesn't require high temperature, or which cannot withstand the high temperatures. It is not destructive. The evaporation is very rapid. The droplets do not attain a high temperature, so most of the heat being used as latent heat of vaporization. Other advantages include we can have uniform particle size, free flowing particles, we can have high bulk density and reduced solubility the product is having, which is spray dried. Porous product we get with the help of spray drying, and the labor and cost effective process it is. It is very cost effective and very with respect to the labor effective. Labor cost is very less here, and it can be fully automated. You can make it fully automated. So choice is yours. This equipment is very bulky, but the problem is, what are the limitations? That the equipment is very bulky, it can be connected to the accessories, fans, heaters. It is not suitable for producing granules with mean particle size more than 200 micron, because for that you need greater size of the drying chamber, and overall the product is expensive. The product needs very high head space. So overall, let's move to uses part. It is suitable for solutions or suspensions, for drying solution suspension, for drying of thermolabile materials. It is suitable for large quantity solutions. Okay, suitable for both soluble and insoluble substances like citric acid, gelatin, starch. It can produce spherical particles in the respiratory range, okay, which can be respired. Dry powder inhalers can be prepared through it. Drying of milk, soap and detergent you might have enjoyed when you were a kid, and even adults love the milk powder, because milk powder is a spray dried product. Wonderful example of household example of spray dried product. For pharmaceutical products including APIs and excipients like antibiotics, sulfathiazole, streptomycin, tetracycline, etc. are spray dried. Vitamins like ascorbic acid, vitamin B12, enzymes like amylase, protease, trypsins, lipase, and excipients like lactose, mannitol, and microcrystalline cellulose, MCC, etc. are dried with the help of spray drying technology. Now, let's focus on the spray drying process stages. Friends, there are 4 stages by which we can have the dried product. First is atomization, okay, with the help of rotary or nozzle atomizer. Spray air contact is the second phase. The third phase is spray evaporation or drying. Then product separation, and after that you can get the dried product or the powder in the form of powder. This we have seen the simplest diagrammatic representation of the spray dryer. So let us move one by one. Each and every phase we are going to focus, and we are going to discuss the critical factors in each and every phase, each and every step. The first step is atomization. It is a process by which a liquid is disintegrated into many fine droplets. The formation of spray with high surface to mass ratio is highly critical for optimum and liquid evaporation conditions, and consequently the desired properties of the resulting product. Although, ideally the sizes of all droplets should be the same. In practical terms, the formation of droplets with a narrow size distribution would be satisfactory. So you are focusing on the uniform size range rather than having the same size. You cannot have practically the same size. So the narrow particle size distribution is acceptable and is required in practical terms. Now let us focus on the atomizer type and designs. Atomizer spray requires application of a force. Now you will have to force. You might have seen when you are irrigating, when you are doing the irrigation in your garden. What you are doing, you are putting the force on the pipe, water pipe, and then the spray is, coming out. Commercial systems employ following for atomizing the spray: centrifugation energy, this force may be employed; pressure energy, kinetic energy or sonic energy, or the vibrations. These are the forces which can be employed for generating the atomized spray. Now, let's see the first kind of atomizer, centrifugal atomizers. They are also called rotary atomizers. They utilize either a rotary disc or a wheel to disintegrate the liquid stream into the droplets. They form a low pressure system, and a wide variety of spray can be obtained by using the combination of feed rate, by controlling the feed rate, atomizer speed, or atomizer design. Generally, as you can see, this is the disc which is rotating horizontally. Okay, it is rotating horizontally at the RPM 20 to 20,000 to 25,000 RPM, and the liquid is entering from this side and the annular tape. And when this entire assembly is moving, what is happening, that actually the liquid which is coming to the reams of these fins, and in annular pipes, the outcome is the atomized spray. So the design of atomizer governs the type of spray, quality of spray. Also the factors feed rate, speed, apart from the design. So we can govern the particle size of the spray with the help of these three factors: feed rate, speed, and design. So these are the three important factors, three critical factors which are decisive for design of the centrifugal atomizer. Droplet size can be varied from as small as 15 micron to as large as 250 micron, depending on the amount of energy transmitted. Larger mean sizes require larger drying chambers, diameters. Rotary atomizer normally operate in the range of 5,000 to 25,000 RPM with a wheel diameter of 5 to 50 centimeter. So this 5 to 50 centimeter and the range of 5,000 to 25,000 RPM speed. Okay. Now let's talk about that mean size of the droplet produces inversely proportional to the wheel speed and directly proportional to the feed rate and its viscosity. So wheel speed and feed rate, viscosity, we have discussed that these three factors, these three four factors can govern the size of the droplet. Solid content and surface tensions are the other factors which have got the minor effects on the droplet size. Centrifugal atomizer designs include wheel with vanes, bushings, and vaneless discs. So there are two major types of centrifugal atomizer designs. Now let's see the first type, vaned atomizer. Vaned atomizer will produce spray of high homogeneity and are the most commonly used as compared to other designs. Liquid which is fed onto a wheel moves across the surface until contained by the rotating vane. The liquid flows outward under the influence of centrifugal force and spreads over the vein, wetting the vein surface as a thin film. At very low liquid vein loading, the thin film can split. The thin film which is formed due to this centrifugal motion, it is splitted into the streams. No liquid slippage occurs on a wheel once liquid has contacted the veins. Now, whether radial or curved, the veins prevent the transverse flow of liquid over the surface. Abrasive materials are best handled using atomizer wheels with bushings. Since the feed material is in direct contact with rotating parts, the bushing feature wear resistant surfaces and require additional maintenance. Wheellet disc designs are often applied when coarse powders are required at high production rates. For example, it can be used in the bulk pharmaceutical excipients and fine chemicals such as antacids. These are produced by the centrifugal atomizers. Free-flowing, soluble, porous product with good compaction properties are produced with the help of these centrifugal atomizers. Now, kinetic energy nozzles. After centrifugal atomizers, we move to the kinetic energy nozzle, and you are seeing here a typical two fluid nozzle. The diagram you can see here. This kinetic energy is being utilized here. It is applied in the form of two fluid or pneumatic atomization. So we can have two methods, two fluid nozzle or the pneumatic atomization. The most commonly used atomization techniques, the atomization is accomplished by interaction of the liquid with a second fluid, usually the compressed air. Higher velocities are generated within the nozzle air for effective feed contact, which breaks up the feed into a spray of fine droplets. Neither the liquid nor the air requires very high pressure, with the 200 to 350 kilopascal being typical. Kinetic energy nozzles provide the particle size which can be controlled by varying the ratio of the compressed air flow to that of the liquid. So we can control the particle size with the help of varying the ratio of the compressed air flow to that of the liquid. The main advantage with this atomization is, number one, the liquid has relatively low velocity as it exits the nozzle. Therefore, the droplets require a shorter flight path for drying. Because many pharmaceutical applications use relatively small spray dryers, pneumatic nozzles are often used. The simple design helps in easy cleaning, sterile operation and minimal contamination is there in the kinetic energy nozzles. Pneumatic nozzles can be designed for sterile or aseptic applications. Now moving to the pressure nozzle. The second most common form of atomization for pharmaceutical application is hydraulic pressure nozzle atomization. The liquid is pressurized by a pump and forced through a nozzle orifice as high-speed film that readily disintegrates into fine droplets. This is the thing which you perform in your gardening when you are trying to irrigate. You are applying the pressure and the stream is converted into the droplets. Okay. The feed is made to rotate within the nozzle, resulting in a cone-shaped spray pattern emerging from the nozzle orifice. Rotary motion within the nozzle can be achieved by use of swirl inserts or spiral grooved inserts. The swirl inserts have comparatively large flow passages and enable such nozzles to handle high solid feeds without causing any wear or clogging. So don't be afraid of this pressure nozzle. It is simply when you are applying the pressure, and it is the normal stream is converted into the fine droplets. The atomization you can apply with the help of pressure. Because the liquid spray exits the nozzle with a relatively high velocity, when you are applying the pressure, obviously the velocity is going to increase. The spray drying chamber is at least 2.5 meter in diameter and 3 meter in cylindrical height is usually required for the pressure nozzle operations. The differential pressure across the orifice determines the mean droplet diameter. Remember this important point. Narrower particle size distribution than the two fluid atomization is achieved here. Sprays from pressure nozzle handling high feed rates are generally wider in distribution and coarser than sprays from vane wheels. Okay. Pressure nozzles at low feed rates, spray characteristics from nozzles and wheels are comparable in the case of pressure nozzles. Mean size of spray is directly proportional to the feed rate and inversely proportional to the pressure. Okay, remember this thing. Pressure nozzles are generally used to form coarse spray dried particles ranging from 120 to 300 micron mean particle size with good flow properties, and antibiotics are typical applications of such a dryer. We can have very good products, antibiotic spray dried products with the help of pressure nozzle, applying the pressure nozzles. Now moving to the sonic energy atomizers. There is a growing interest in this technology in the last 2 decades, but it is not very much used in the commercial purpose. The advantage of sonic nozzles that it can be operated at low pressure and having the wide flow channels include it is suitable for abrasive and corrosive materials, for special applications such as very fine sprays of mean size of 20 micron, where the nature of the spray angle and cone minimizes the droplet coalescence. So we can have very fine particle size up to 20 micron, and it is suitable for abrasive and corrosive materials. Now, how we can select the atomizer? What are the selection criteria? The function of an atomizer is to produce as homogeneous as a spray as possible. Our aim is to deliver a homogeneous spray. So selection of the atomizer depends on number one, the nature of the feed, the characteristic of the spray, secondly, and the thirdly, the desired property of the resulting dried product type. With proper design and operation, nozzles and rotary atomizers can produce sprays having similar droplet size distribution. So uniform particle size distribution we can achieve with the help of proper selection of nature of the feed, depending on the nature of the feed, the characteristic of the spray, and the desired properties what we need. So if we select proper design of an operation of nozzles and rotary atomizer, we can have the uniform droplet size. In all atomizer types, the size of the droplet can be altered by either increasing or decreasing the atomizing energy. Increased atomization energy results in smaller droplet size. Always remember this thing. Whatever the energy you are providing, whether pressure, whether sonic energy, what kind of energy you are providing, centrifugal energy. So increasing energy decreases the droplet size. For a given amount of energy, the viscosity and the surface tension values of the feed influence the size of the droplet also. Higher values results in larger spray droplets. So higher the viscosity, larger will be the spray droplet. Okay. Rotary atomizers deliver a fine to medium coarse product of mean size 20 to 150 microns, while the larger spray dried particles can also be obtained if a very large drying chamber is used. Nozzle atomizer can deliver spray dried products with coarse mean particle size of 150 to 300 microns. So with the help of selection of either the rotary atomizer used or the nozzle atomizer used, the droplet size may be varied. So depending on the droplet size you are aiming for, select the particular atomizer. The feed capacity range of the atomizer for which complete atomization is attained is depending on atomization efficiency, the droplet size distribution, and these are the factors on the basis of which we are selecting the atomizer. The feed capacity range of the atomizer for which the complete atomization is attained, atomization efficiency, the droplet size distribution at identical feed rates, spray homogeneity, operation flexibility, the suitability of the drying chamber design for atomizer operation, feed properties, and last but not the least, the atomizer experience available for the product in question. What have been the history of using the atomizer and getting the product? You will have to go through with the historical data, and depending on that you can go for the selection of a particularly or the most suited atomizer for you. Whether you want to go for the rotary or the nozzle will affect the decision, will be dependent on all these factors. Okay, now atomization we have done. Now we have come to the second phase, spray air contact and evaporation. Here actual drying is being done. Once the liquid is atomized, it must be brought into intimate contact with the heated gas for evaporation in the drying chamber to take place equally from the surface of all droplets. So uniform evaporation is the utmost requirement. The heated gas is introduced into the chamber by an air dispenser, which ensures that the gas flows equally to all parts of the chamber. The tangential flow, the tangential entry allows the flow. Many times you might be seeing that tangential entry of air is there, so that air goes to the one wall and then it forms whirl. So a whirling motion or swirling motion provides the intimate contact of the feed and the drying air. So our aim is to provide the intimate contact of the spray air with the feed. The way in which spray contacts the drying air is a critical factor. The spray air contact is determined by the position of the atomizer in relation to the air inlet. This is the thing which I was telling, that air dispenser through perforated plates or vent channels introduces the air, and we can use for well mixing, we can use the tangential inlet, the positioning of the air entry. The well mixing and no temperature gradient across the duct is must for air entering the dispersal. The spray droplet movement is classified according to the drying chamber layout and can be designated as co-current, counter current, and mixed flow. It is if the feed and the air are entering simultaneously on the same direction, it is called co-current. When the feed is entering from the opposite end than that of the entering drying air, it is called counter current. Or you can also employ the mix of these flow for ensuring the intimate contact or maximum contact of the spray air with the feed. Now, spray air contact, the drying chamber we are focusing now. The drying chamber, it is a tall and slender or have a large diameter with a short cylindrical height. The dimension selection criteria involves: number 1, adequate volume to provide enough contact time between the atomized cloud and the heated gas. This volume is calculated by determining the mass of air required for evaporation and multiplying by the gas residence time, which testing or experience dictates. So on the basis of experience dictates, you can you can go for the designing the particular dimension of the dry chamber and ensuring the adequate volume. All droplets must be sufficiently dried before they contact a surface. This is where the vessel shape comes into the play. Centrifugal atomizer leads to large diameter and shorter cylindrical heights they require. Nozzle atomizer, they have got for them the dimensions of the dryer, the drying chamber is narrower and taller drying chambers are required for these nozzle atomizer. While for the centrifugal you have seen the large diameters are required for the dryer chamber. Don't get confused with the particle diameter. We are not talking about the particle diameter. We are talking about the dimensions of the dryer here. So for the centrifugal atomizer, large diameter and short cylindrical heights are required, while for the nozzle atomizer, narrower and taller drying chambers are required. Okay. Now the separation states. Now we have come to the separation stage now after the atomizing, sprayer contact, drying. Now it's the time for separating the dried product from the air. Dried powder separation is followed by drying. Okay, obviously. The cone bottom to facilitate the collection of the dried powder is there always there, and there you can see that the bottom is always having a cone, so that the drug product that product easily comes with the help of the gravitational force to the exit. Different systems for coarse and fine products are adopted with or without product conveying system. They may have the conveying system or they may not have, depending on the product. The production of fines must be protected. Here, what is the most important aspect, that you must take care of fine generation. You must separate the fines out of the drying whatever the product you have dried, you have got as a product. So fines must be separated with the help of cyclone separator and other kind of separators. Now let us see that how the spray drying process works. So we are summarizing the spray drying process with the help of this thing. What you can see here, this is the drying chamber. Okay, this is the drying chamber, and this is a cyclone separator. Okay, and this is the dust collector. Okay, dust collector, cyclone separator, and the spray dryer, and feed is entering here. So let's see one by one the steps involved here. Feed enters into the dryer chamber. Okay, feed is entering here, and that feed is rotated or in the centrifugal atomizer and enters, and the atomization occurs. The hot air enters in the counter current way most of the time, and here the heated air comes into the intimate contact of the feed. Here in the next stage, they are each and every droplet is coming into the contact of the drying air, the hot air, and then the air moves to the outlet. The drying product, the product which have been dried with the help of this motion with the counter current sprayer contact, the heat has been transferred to the feed, and feed has become dry. Now it falls on this discharge outlet, and with the help of this you can see here that cool air is going out from the exit, and the product started its journey towards the cyclone separator. Towards the cyclone separator, this feed is moving. Now it enters into the cyclone separator, where the high velocity of air enters, and due to this high velocity of air, what is happening, that high velocity takes the fines with it, and the movement is directed towards the dust collector, as you can see here. Okay, the fines will be taken away by the high velocity air to the dust collector, and then at the last step we will get the final product, okay, in the discharge outlet of the cyclone separator, and the fines will be collected by the dust collector. This was all about the exact mechanism of spray drying process. Hope you would have enjoyed this processing and this presentation of spray drying process. So try to learn this process. Quite simple. Now it is looking simple to you now, because we have explained the thing in such a way so that you can learn the thing from your exam point of view. Now let us discuss what was happening in the drying chamber. In the drying chamber, the counter current mechanism, the droplet entered, the feed is entering from here, okay, feed is entering, and the atomizer, whatever, say for example, whatever the atomizer you are using, nozzle or the any other kind of atomizer you are using, that rotary atomizer or nozzle atomizer, what is happening, it is converting the feed into the droplets, fine droplets. When these fine droplets are coming, they are coming into the intimate contact of the heated air. So drying gas contacts the droplets, and what is happening, the outer crust is dried first, though the moisture may be remaining inside them. In the fractions of seconds, 10 to the power minus 2 seconds, what is happening, the outer crust dries up, and the last part of which are in the inner core, the moisture which is remaining here, it pops out in the later stage. This is the reason where we are getting the particles, dried product, which are having porous in nature. Their inner core is hollow. That's why they had got the high Bell density and ready solubility, just due to this, because at the later stage what happens, that the moisture which is there inside the core of the droplet in individual droplet pops out in the later stages, leaving behind a hollow sphere. So the particle is having, number one, the spherical shape, and number two, they are hollow in nature. Their core is hollow. So that's why they show the ready solubility. Okay. The particle size, the surface morphology, size we have talked about now, so it is the turn of the morphology. Morphology of the particles depend on the process variables and material characteristics. Two factors are there. So liquid droplets, spray air contacts, then crust formation occurs, outer crust is dried, okay. So air temperature above the boiling point may lead to the porous rigid particles, less porous rigid particles, which may have the bubbling or the major fractures, and you can see the spongy inflation, that inflation followed by the collapse, crust reformation, inflation, no change, fractured particles, and with crystal growth and shivered particle. So different kind of particle morphology we can have depending on these two factors, process variables and material characteristics. Particles size as well as the shape are governed by the various parameters you must go through. Okay. Now moving to the pharmaceutical applications of the spray drying. Spray drying is used. We have also discussed the uses, the general uses. Now it can be used in the granulation, pharmaceutical granulation, tablet granulation can be used. It can be used for modifying the solid state properties, like crystallinity, like its solubility, we can also change. We can also change the overall density, micromeradic properties we can change. We can develop the microcapsule with the help of granulation, with the help of this spray drying technology. Inhalational dosage forms can be used, can be dried with the help of these things. They can be produced. We studied that respirable fractions can be achieved with the help of spray drying technologies. We can also prepare the nanoparticles, liposomes, peptide and proteins, because they are well suited for the thermolabile materials also, because the heat, the temperature is not attained for longer period of time. Okay, for high temperature, for just for a fraction of seconds is exposed to the particles which are going to be dried. We can also develop the dry elixirs, and emulsion can be formulated, and effervescent product can be formulated with the help of spray drying technology. So you might have got how effective and how versatile the spray drying technology is. Not only the particle size, we can also modulate the particle shape, and that too, the properties, desired properties of the particles can be achieved with the help of variation in the process, variation in the atomizer, variation in the overall diameter, or you can say the design of the drying chamber. These are some of the further readings for you, and especially I would like to I like this particular book by the Handbook of Pharmaceutical Granulation Technology, edited by the, is a series of Swarbrick J, edited by the D.M. Parekh, but Taylor Francis. I recommend this book especially for this particular topic. And you can also refer this article, which is freely available, a model based methodology for the spray drying process development by the Dobry and Settle et al. In Journal of Pharmaceutical Innovation 2009. They are one of the two, and it is freely available. Please go through this particular article also. Now, let me summarize. Let me summarize whatever we have studied. Spray drying is the most popular dryer. What are the advantages? Uniform particle size range, porous material, bulk density high, free flowing, highly soluble, suitable for thermolabile materials also, and variety of materials can be dried. Limitations, obviously it's bulky, and it is some issues may be there with the help of particle size also, because in getting the larger particle size we need the more heavier or more larger diameter drying chambers are required. Obviously it is expensive, it is a bulky instrument. There are phases: atomization, dry air contact, drying, and separation. These are the four major phases of the spray drying. By variation in the atomizers, whether you use the rotary or centrifugal atomizer or the nozzle atomizer, or what kind of atomizing energy you are applying, it governs the shape and size of the droplet you are producing, atomizing. Then we studied that the dimension of the drying chamber also affects the product's diameter, because the spray dry air contact needs the huge volume for getting the coarser product. So depending on the process variables, depending on the materials which are being used, depending on the process variable, we can modify the shape as well as the size of the particles which are obtained with the help of spray drying. And we studied the factors affecting these: atomization, contact, drying, separations. And then we studied that what is the exact procedure with the help of GIF, that we have explained. The drying air is entering in the concurrent way with the feed, it's entering there, and in the instant of time, in the fractions of seconds, the outer crust gets dried, and the later stages, the hollow, it becomes hollow because the last traces of the moisture comes out and leaving behind the porous, or the, you can say, hollow inner core, leading to the hollow particles which are having the high bulk density and reduced solubility. The dryers, these dryers are used very heavily in the pharmaceutical industries, and in very versatile uses it is having. So it is also used in very food industries, milk powder production, and so many things are produced which we have discussed. So please go through all the variables, what are the requirements, phases, the factors governing the atomization, design of atomization, and try to learn the diagrammatic representation with the flow of the material and the processing for your exam point of view. So thank you for being with us. It has been a wonderful experience in presenting my views on spray drying technologies, and I tried to simplify the things for with the help of this lecture. Hope you will enjoy, and we will be coming back with some more dryers in our next lecture. Thank you for being with us. Happy learning.